It is time to do some myth busting. What is the easiest, most affordable way to wire up a DC charger or a dual battery? A pre-made wiring kit or a DIY kit that you put together yourself? In the middle here, I've got the King's 25 amp and 50 amp wiring kits, and on their outsides, I have all the corresponding components that I've purchased individually to replicate these kits. First, we're gonna talk price. I'm gonna show you what I paid for all of those components. Next, I'm gonna put these DIY kits together and I'm gonna time myself to see how long it takes. And finally, I'm gonna put all 4 of these kits to the test to see if there is any noticeable difference in performance. Both the King's 25 amp and 50 amp wiring kits are nearly identical, except one uses thicker cabling and has a higher rated fuse. I hit up my local electronics store and got almost everything I needed to make my own kits. So to replicate the 25 amp kit, I bought 6 meters of 8 AWG cable for $15.95 a meter and a total of $95.70. I bought some Anderson connectors, some 8mm eye terminals, and some heat shrink. Now, annoyingly, they didn't have the inline fuse holders or the fuses, so I had to go to the other side of town to the car parts store. I purchased the inline fuse holder plus a pair of the fuses for another $43. So $127.70 plus $43. The 25 amp kit cost to replicate was $170.70. So to replicate the 50 amp kit, I bought 6 meters of 6 AWG cable at $27.95 a meter for a total of $167.70. I bought a couple more Anderson plugs. I've got some eye terminals, some heat shrink that are a bit bigger size to suit the bigger cabling, which brought that to $206.10 before I ran to the other side of town, bought another fuse holder and some 60 amp fuses for a total of $255.10. And that's the crazy part, not counting all the small components that I need, I just spent more on the cabling alone than what the entire King's wiring kits cost. All right, clear winner, the King's wiring kits when it comes to cost. Now, let's put these kits together, stopwatches out. First, I'll tackle the 25 amp kit, and I need to do a couple of things. I've got to add the inline maxi blade fuse holder. I've got to match the overall length of cabling as close as I can, and then add ring terminals to one end and quick connect terminals to the other. I'm adding bits of heat shrink as I go to neaten the connections up. Alrighty, so let's get into what we need to do here. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the inline maxi blade fuse holder. Because my soldering skills aren't quite up to task, I'm going to use a little butt connector. I did have those lying around, but if you don't, then again, you'd need to factor that into your total costs. The next job is to put the ring terminals on this end of the cabling. Okay, that's that end of the cabling done. So let's put some quick connect terminals on the other end. A little bit more heat shrink, just because we're all about doing a nice, neat job here. There we go. All right, we will go for the lap there. So that's our 25 amp kit done. Let's get on to the 50 amp kit. We'll put all those aside, and no, I haven't put the fuse in that yet. You put that in at the final step when you're installing it in your vehicle. So let's get on to the big fella now. Now, one of the fun parts here is this is a big step up in cable size. We're talking 6 AWG, which is a 16mm square cross section. So pretty much everything we're doing here is going to be a little bit more challenging because there's so much more cabling to deal with, but the process is the same. Always a good idea just to give it a little tug test. Same process here. We will now put some bigger ring terminals on this end. There's still an 8mm eyelet because that's the typical size that goes to starter battery terminals. So once again, there's that end of the cabling done. In my cost calculations earlier, I didn't include the cost of tools, side cutters, wire strippers, crimping tool, heat gun, because I already had all of them in the toolbox. But if you don't, then you'll need to factor this cost in too. And that is time. Now, I am sure you're watching that all and thinking, I could do that better, I could do it faster, I've got all the stuff in my shed, I can do it cheaper. I'm an auto elec, I could do that myself. Hey, I'm sure that a lot of you could, but I can't do that any better than I just did it. I don't have any extra gear than what I just used here. I'm doing stuff in my own shed, and I reckon that's pretty typical. So let's have a look at the times. So yeah, about 10 minutes per kit. Not the end of the world, but still 10 minutes more than just buying the King's wiring kit, opening the box, and installing it in your vehicle. Okay, so the final part of this video is we're going to use this equipment here to test how much voltage drop we get between the two kits. Ideally, you want as close to none as possible across the 6 meter length. You're going to get some voltage drop naturally. I've got the DIY kit that I made a moment ago. I've got the King's kit here. I've got a power supply here. It will supply a constant level of power. I've got a couple of load testers here. These are the 25 amp kits. To start with, I'm going to set these to pull 25 amps. So we'll set both of them. Now, we will connect the King's kit to my one on the outside here, and we'll connect the DIY kit to the one closest to me. Okay, so we'll turn our power supply on. I've got it set to 14 volts. That's basically what you're going to get out of a typical alternator while you're driving. I'm going to come across, turn both of these loads on, and see what sort of voltage drop we get across both of these lengths of cabling. So this is the DIY kit. We'll turn it on, and the King's kit. Give it a moment. You can see that it's drawing 25 amps, and we've got on the DIY kit 13.19 volts here, and on the King's kit 13.17. So pretty good result there. Shows that there's about a volt of drop across both of these cables, but they're pretty much identical. So let's do the 40 amp now. Okay, so like before, we'll connect the DIY kit closest to me, and we'll connect the King's kit to the outside tester. Now, these testers only go to 30 amps, so that's all we can put them to. So we'll turn the power supply on again. This time we will set our power to 30 amps. We'll turn on the DIY kit and then the King's kit. And once again, you can see that we've got 14 volts coming in, 13.5 on the DIY kit, and 13.6 on the King's kit. So it's actually just that little bit better. So if you can hear me over the noise of the fans in those load testers, let's quickly talk about what those results mean. With no real discernible difference in voltage drop between the DIY kit I put together myself and the King's kit, it means that the cabling in both of these can carry the same amount of power. But of course, the King's kits are so much more affordable. There you go. I'd say that myth is conclusively busted. Simply unbeatable value for money, no need to put it together yourself, and using high quality components. King's wiring kits are the ultimate choice whether you're wiring up a DC charger, a dual battery, or getting power to your camper trailer or your caravan.